Evening, Vicksburg, and welcome to tonight's agenda for the regular session village council meeting. Today is Monday, June 6th, 2022, and happens to be the 78th anniversary of D-Day. So thank you for all those men and women that sacrificed for our freedoms. I'll call this meeting to order and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here tonight. We'll take a moment of silence and think of all those we have lost around this great country over these last couple of weeks. Mr. Wines, would you take a roll call, please?
Trustee Olson?
Here.
Trustee Wagner?
Here.
Trustee Merrill?
Here.
Trustee Holmes?
Here.
Trustee Reister?
Gail's excused tonight. She had a long day volunteering at the library, so.
Trustee Keller?
Here.
And President Frisbee.
Here. So we have an agenda in front of us. I'll ask the staff, was there any changes or additions?
Yes, we have remove under item 10, B Boy, C Charlie, and D David. All three will be moved to the June 20th agenda. And we would add announcements for board positions on the library board as well as the planning commission due to terms expiring. So part of the policy that the council enacted was if people were interested in those boards to fill out an application, including if the people wish to continue after their term expires. So we have those positions open and we will provide the names to President Frisbee to present probably June 27th.
All right, thank you. Any of the council trustees have any additions they'd like to make note of during the meeting? Hearing none, we have an agenda in front of us, a modified agenda, and entertaining a motion to approve.
The move is amended. Trustee Wagner, I support.
Motion made by Trustee Keller, supported by Trustee Wagner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. So we have scheduled appearances tonight. Ms. Sid and Alicia from the Cultural Arts Center would like to give us an update.
And then it'll be mostly Alicia.
All right, Sid will be the peanut gallery. She can make her wisecracks from the side. Well, President Frisbee and trustees, the last time I saw you was via Zoom about a year ago when I first started this position. So it's almost been a year since I've been here helping out with the Vicksburg Cultural Arts Center. So tonight, for just 5 minutes, I'd like to give you an update of what we've been doing, a little preview of what's coming this summer, but most importantly, an invitation for how we can partner with the village going forward in the future. So that's what I wanted to just give you a brief idea about tonight so that you can keep us in the back of your mind as you're making your plans. So one of the most important things I wanted to point out is how much work we've been doing to build community in the village, but also connecting the village with all of the different towns around in the whole southern Kalamazoo County region. For example, we just recently had a wonderful arts exploration lab for teenagers, and we had teenagers from 8 different high schools coming to that event, and there were no rumbles or fights or any turf wars. It was a really exciting event where we actually surveyed teens and asked them, what kind of classes would you like to have that you can't get at school? And so they gave us a big list, and then we researched and found the artists and the cultural arts experts who could teach them. So they had classes in makeup for special effects. So they were making little scars and stuff on their hands and their arms. They learned how to do stage combat. They learned how to do henna design and tattoos. We had some people there teaching them advanced origami. And we had even a guy come in who worked with students who already played instruments to learn more about how to do jazz improvisation. And then after they had 4 hours of classes, they had a big communal dinner and then an open mic night. And the jazz kids got to show off the stuff that they had learned while they'd been practicing together. One of the things that really touched me about that night is during the open mic night, there were quite a few very shy kids who got really brave and went up, one with just a little ukulele, started playing and started crying about halfway through because it was a breakup song. She had very tender feelings about it and left the stage, and then a group of about 7 teenagers gathered around her and encouraged her and sent her back up on the stage, and she finished her song. And it was such a sweet moment to see community building, encouragement, and teenagers learning and trying something new. When we surveyed them, every single one said that they learned something new that day. So that really fed into our, agenda to engage and inspire and enrich and educate the residents. That's our mission. So just to give you an idea, that's one of the things we've done. We've also had a really amazing tournament of writers, a writing competition. And we are doing lots of different pop-up creation stations where at the farmer's market or when the mill has their nature walks, we're there to provide activities, hands-on free activities for kids. What's coming up this summer are more of those kinds of activities, but also our kids' camps, which you know that there's such an urgent need for kids' activities in the village in the summer. And so we have expanded this year to 2 camps instead of just 1. Last year we had almost 50 kids in the community center downtown, and I think all of their energy almost made that building fall down. So we're moving out to the outdoor education center this year where we can give them a little bit more room to run around, and we're splitting the camp into 2 so that they'll be a little bit smaller and easier to manage. We're also going to be offering in the middle of September and the beginning of October, Destination Japan, which is going to be really exciting. We've actually found 4 Japanese specialists in theater that are coming from around the country to perform a no theater play. That's spelled N-O-H theater, and that's like traditional Japanese drama where they have wooden masks that look really realistic, and they have Japanese instruments playing and those big kimonos. So it's going to be really fascinating to watch that. And also a Japanese culture art hop downtown, where the mill has generously donated some of their buildings for us to use for that afternoon to have Japanese swords, origami lessons, bonsai lessons, little amulets that are found in Shinto shrines, all different kinds of really interesting Japanese culture for us. So that's coming up at that time. In September and October, so we'll be advertising that heavily. But the most important message that I wanted to give to you tonight is what we could do together, not just what we're doing alone or what we're planning. Now that we have been around for several years, we're really becoming a mature organization that's really delivering high-quality programming. And the way we work is we actually survey the community and we ask people, what do you want? And then we find the resources for it. So we have a group of about 52 volunteers that help us run all the programs. I'm the only paid person in the organization. So this is something that the village wants because they do it for free. But we also find the funding for it. Because we're a 501c3, I can apply for grants, especially from some of those well-funded foundations in Kalamazoo. So I'm bringing in the money into your community so that you can do these different activities, things that you could never do on our own without a 501c3 leadership to help bring that in. So we're a great resource for you. And we're looking forward to partnering with you in the future because we have the connections with the artists, not only local artists, but ones from up in Kalamazoo and beyond in Grand Rapids. In addition to connections to the artists, we have volunteer power that we can mobilize, and we have the ability to secure funding that you wouldn't normally get. And so think of us in the future. If you, for example, want to do some kind of really neat public art project, I can help you find the funds for that. I can help you find the artists for it. I can mobilize the volunteers for it. And we'll try to keep in better communication with all of you as well, letting you know what's going on. I've been working with Parks and Recreation and kind of trying to keep in touch with them and think about ways that we could partner together and the things that they're doing as they're getting ramped up. And as the downtown businesses get organized, I'll be talking with them about art hops and things like that as they start to really kind of figure out what they want to do going forward in the future. So just wanted to let you know that we're here, and when we do something, we do it really well. And I think that we're at the point now where we can start to expand some of our programming and try some new things now that we've cautiously re-entered into that arena. Now that the pandemic has subsided, we're ready to go. So we just wanted to reintroduce ourselves and let you know what we've been doing, but also just invite you to keep us in mind for more partnerships in the future. We're really excited about it. Do you have anything you want to ask me?
I think it's great, Alicia, that you know, when you and I first met, the discussion really just kept coming back to the kids.
Yeah.
There's so many new families here in the village that, you know, that I thought, and you agreed, and it's great to see it taking off with the kids and so much interaction, but our adults are welcome to come to the Japanese
Oh yeah, that's
events.
for all
That's for all
everybody, for
families,
families.
everybody.
Yeah. So that's going to be really exciting. Yeah, our kids camp last year doubled, and we'll almost double it again this year. So there's just such a huge demand for that in the summers, especially. And we are really doing a lot to partner with organizations all around the community. For example, we work with Generous Hands to get names of families who are interested in the camp but can't afford it, and then we fundraise to find scholarships. So we're partnering with them. We work with the schools, with Parks and Recreation, with the libraries. We formed an arts communication hub so that we can all exchange information, and the left hand knows what the right hand's doing in the community. So we are a huge, important part for communication. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I would like to commend you. I mean, this is wonderful, and obviously coming out of COVID, to your point,
Yeah.
but being an old guy who once was a young guy in this community, it's a little different world now. Used to see kids on bicycles everywhere. You know, now they're probably inside wearing their thumbs out. So you're giving them a reason to get out a little bit and interact with other people. The one thing that you just said that I think is great is the idea of collaboration, cross-pollination. I mean, there's so much that's going on. The library has its reading marathon in the summer. You've got the Lions Club with the summer festival for a week, and so it would seem as if there would be the opportunity, you know, for these various groups to work together to
Right.
really bring something really special to the community. So I commend really, you know, you and Sid and the others for really getting out in front of this. This is exactly what the community needs.
It really is. And when I was speaking with Tim a year ago, you know, one of the biggest things that came up over and over again was that we just need a lot more communication. You can't collaborate if you don't know about something in advance. So that's kind of my goal, is to get a 2-month out advance notice so we can collaborate, because otherwise it's too late. Oh no, well maybe next year. So we're working on that. Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Sid, or?
The one other thing for the Destination Japan, there's a classic game called Go, spelled G-O, and we're actually going to be hosting a Go tournament. And around that same time, we'll actually be teaching people how to play the game. It's a very high strategy, very similar in terms of the thinking required for chess.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that's actually helping us make this happen is Claudio Mendoza. He went to a tournament in Grand Rapids to kind of learn how they did it up there. And he got paired with a 5-year-old who beat the pants off him.
Yeah.
Claudio has a PhD
In physics. Yeah.
So it was just very humbling for him. But anyway, so that's
Yeah, we have
part of that as well. And
part of
we're
that.
not fully filled in yet with Destination Japan, but working with the Sobo.
There's institute at Western Michigan University that's a Japan institute called the SOBA Institute. And so they've been giving me the names of the people who are the Japanese experts in the community, so we aren't just like, oh, let's Alicia look in a book on how to do origami and then come and try to, it's official people.
And one more thing, the auction.
Oh, yeah, part of our organization is finding the resources to fund this, and since I've been here, we've had 2 fundraisers, and we've been able to raise from the community $18,000, and we just recently had, part of that was $10,000 that we just raised at our Lucky Day fundraiser, which we had on Friday the 13th. But it actually turned out to be okay to have it on that day because we got our goal of $10,000. So that's showing a lot of community support, that people are really generous and excited about the arts here. Yeah.
I was very disappointed. My phone reminded me at 8:05, the Friday the 13th auction, and there was an item on there I really wanted.
You'll have to try next time.
It was, okay. That's why I bring it up. It was a photograph of the aging room, the barrel room.
Oh, yeah. Just ask. I think that you could probably get one directly from Bill Christensen, because I think he has a few of them. He could sell you one.
Cool. And what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal what you're doing. The attention you're generating and the community, the funding. You're really stepping outside of what I would have thought the team would bring to the table. So thank you.
Well, we are excited to partner with you guys in the future and meet the needs of the people of Vicksburg, because they really are hungry for the arts, and we're excited to help them make that happen. So thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
You bet. Okay, my purse is over here.
I was just kidding to make you stay all night. So.
I know you have important business, so.
The more the merrier. Thank you. Do we have any public officials on, Jim, tonight? Anything scheduled?
No,
Nobody
sir.
online? Thank you. So we have citizens' comments tonight for the agenda items that we have in front of us tonight. So if anyone would like to speak to those, now is the time to do that. The hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the general consent agenda. Minutes of the regular council meeting, May 16, 2022. We had warrant reports, total of $735,571.83. Event request is the Historic Village Pavilion, July 30th for the Mental Health Wellness Day, and we had no correspondence. So has everyone had an opportunity to review the meeting notes and what was in front of us, and had any comments, corrections, or? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the general consent agenda.
Trustee Wagner, I move to approve the general consent agenda as submit.
Trustee Holmes, I second.
Trustee Wagner motions the support for the approval of general consent agenda, and seconded by Trustee Holmes. We'll do a roll call, please, Mr. Wines.
Trustee Merrill? Yes. Trustee Holmes?
Yes.
Trustee Olson?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller?
Yes.
President Frisbee? Yes.
So we have a few action items in front of us tonight. I just want to tell the team some of the reasons that we put off the budget for the police staffing office and DPW was I wanted an opportunity for the finance committee to get together to get some of the vetting done before it gets to the meeting stage. So we have a meeting that I haven't seen a meeting acknowledgement from one, but I believe we're on for next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So from there, we'll make our recommendations, and at the June 20th, the staff will present the budget. So we have the Phase 1, fourth quarter amendments.
Yes, all of the council members have a copy. Again, we let you know with the significant projects we've had, we'll be doing kind of 3 phases at this meeting, June 20th and then June 27th, all fourth quarter amendments and adjustments that are needed reference the 21-22 fiscal year in bringing that budget in, and everything's looks fine. It's now just tracking, making sure we acquire all the invoices and everything that we need to close it out. So what I can answer any of the questions specific. You'll notice since we did third quarter amendments, there's a lot less up until the point that you get to the golf course. This is the first time we've done the golf course this year. That's traditionally exactly how we do it, to let it's an enterprise zone, as well as the water and sewer amendments that are in. We have done a few of those as they related to the project. But our goal as a staff will be then, with your approval on our recommendations here, we'll have those all inputted by the close of the business week. And this is something that is reviewed by me every day, making adjustments now as we close out this fiscal year.
President Frisbee, if I could.
Yes, sir, please do.
Jim, back in April when we originally were having discussions, I asked a question, you forwarded some information to me, and as always, I appreciate your promptness on that. I look forward to our meeting where we can have further discussions regarding the budget. The one thing that I really like, this is the fourth year that I've been on the Finance Committee, is the fact that we do have a budget, and that was something that you clarified, I think, earlier session we had where it was discussed, a community our size, this isn't common for such things to happen, for there actually to be a very clear budget where, you know, expenses are identified and revenue as well in advance of the fiscal year. And so we do that to show transparency. We do that to show the people how their money is being managed, and it's available on our website. The one thing that, you know, I'm looking at the amendments for the quarter, you know, there's 12 pages of amendments, and I think that shows that we're pragmatic. We move money from one expense to another, for one revenue fund from another, unrestricted revenue, so that we can account properly. The only thing that I'm curious your thoughts on, and that is, what do you think the ability is for us to maybe tighten that up a little bit, so maybe or is it just the appearance that there's a lot of amendments here that we're moving money from one fund to the other? Is there that ability to tighten it up, you think, a little bit more?
Yeah, I wouldn't describe it as moving money from one fund to another. Expenses, on the expense side, are the majority of those amendments, especially when you're talking from the enterprise funds. So those would be updated as it's, you know, one example that we all are facing now in our personal lives are, if you personally budgeted for gasoline usage. I prepped a budget in May of 2021 based on $3.85 on a historical look of the use of gallons of gas in the village at a time that gas was, I think my notes indicated, $2.70 something, and we're approaching $5 and diesel's over $5. So that's, you know, on some of the expense side, it's due to cost of goods and services that are now 12 and 13 months from when that was prepped. I think one thing that we look, well, you know, not the, we get here early, and some of my time is, I mean, this page, which I don't think you want to get in the weeds, is a 5-year historical look at exact expenditures of the village on each line item, even though we do an activity level budget. So we go ahead and look at historical 5 years back, and we're looking at revenue projections for next year to develop what ultimately will be presented over the next 2 meetings in detail to hit the needs, wants, and wishes of the community and the other constituents involved in the process. So I think the tightness comes from committing to do the amendments as often as we do when needed. Again, there won't be a plan to have 3 significant projects all complete in the last 6 weeks of a fiscal year. Again, if I have a say in it. I've learned my lesson on that. So that's what's causing a lot of the juggling right now. There's nothing in the juggling outside of the golf course that we didn't anticipate. So, and the golf course isn't a negative. It's, I'm hoping the revenue that we predicted will hit this month with good weather. If a historical trend is the last 3 years, we've exceeded the June revenue that I'm anticipating this year. But sometimes why we stay awake at night.
I'm not questioning actually any of the amendments. And looking through it, understand it makes sense. The one thing, though, that we do have to admit, and that is if we are moving, and I did use the word fund, I didn't mean fund, I meant account.
Yeah.
So if we're moving revenue or expense from one account to the other, that means that whatever we're moving it from will be impacted by it. And so,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Now, on those, when I put on where the money we're gonna move, so again, we have departments that are myself, I'll use the example. We have a department for village manager. Within the department, we have funds listed out where that money is going to. So we don't have the example that's in front of you, but on one of them, if one of the line items within a department is tracking over, I'll identify within that same department money to cover that expense. So the overall budget dollar amount for that department isn't going, and what that saves will be on the back end when we're audited in October, because, and I don't want to get too confusing for the public, we run an activity level budget. So by our audit, if I say X amount's being spent in one of these departments, we have to be at or under that amount. But if one of the line items that we've put in front of the council goes above, in October, I do a lengthy report on anything that meets those parameters. So as much of that as I can get done now will be less I have to do in October. That's why you see the inner movement within a department of money. It's saving the time on the back end in October when I have to do a report.
so the movement really is more or less within those departments. We're not seeing something coming across.
No, it's all within the same department. I haven't moved, and it's not on any of the revenue streams changing. So about the one example that might fit, because it gets a little confusing for some people, is our 101 and 204 accounts are general fund tax money. All 204 identifies is expenses related to DPW. And that chart of accounts was created historically because they used to restrict some money in the village to DPW. We no longer do that, but we didn't want to change the historical chart of accounts. So there's on the DPW, our tax revenue collection was up from what we predicted last May. So in this fourth quarter, we identify some of that money to be placed in the 204 account in 101, but again, it's all in general fund. So there isn't any money being moved from the general fund to cover any expenses in water, sewer, golf, or any you name it, nothing.
Right.
So it's all.
Because we can't go across like the general or enterprise fund from one fund to the other, was what you were saying there, right? Monies can't move from one.
You could move general fund into, but you can't move out of an enterprise fund. You're not going to take money generated at Angels Crossing to pay for expenses related
Right.
that aren't Angel Crossing expenses.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So,
President Frisbee. And to get to Rick, Trustee Holmes's point, historically in the past, unfortunately, councils and administrations did that. They moved money from funds that shouldn't have been, and
Yeah, I
and
think,
so this is really a way to keep us on task and keep everything on the up and up, more or less, so that funds aren't getting, like I'm saying, back in the historical past, that
yeah, I think it's important to note that's like pre-2013 for sure, and 2012. The most significant, as it relates to the budget, I believe that we've done since 2016 are putting these amendments out quarterly in their document. That document is a part of history forever. The easiest thing for me to do, Michelle's completely on board. This is extra work for us the way we do it. I could keystroke the software to balance everything on June 26th. Every single line item account. It just does it automatically, and that's what historically was done in this village and is done quite often. It's then presented on the 27th. It's all balanced, voted of a support of the governing body, and you implement it. But as you guys see, that's 49 pages and I think 400 and some line item where we have money. I just feel more comfortable presenting this record, if you will, of where exactly we see the money need to be moved.
Yeah, and Jim, where I was going with that, because I can remember before I was on the council, I would go to meetings, and they would do the budget amendments. And, a layperson would say, well, you have a budget, why are you amending it? That's the first thing, they think of, is, well, why are you amending it? Well, so to Trustee Holmes's credit, to have you kind of give a 30,000-foot overview on why we do this, I think it helps everybody out to know that, we're just making sure that everything is above board and it's transparent so everybody sees it. So it's not like things are going on behind the scenes. And you're not doing a keystroke at the end of June, so.
No.
And that happened all too often. You get to the end of the budget, and you said you've put this out in front of the council with 49 pages of amendments at the end of the year and expect them to get their head around it. So with these, at least we see every quarter, what's going on, and it just reinforces the expenditures, the incomes for us. So for me personally, I think it's a great tool. It keeps me on task with the budget. As Jim says, it keeps him on task with the budget. And it also is part of the best practices. If you look at communities, municipalities in the country, that's what they do.
Yeah, and this goes in, every month, and the financial committee we reconcile. All of our accounts every month are reconciled and signed off on. So problems of the past of and we've all been there in a certain situation in our life where you feel like you're in quicksand, and it's easier to maybe ignore or put aside that problem. Or quite often in my life, I'll author a document, read it 10 times, and thank goodness I have my wife. She'll read it and find 16 grammar errors that I would have swore had none. So I think between this, the monthly bank reconciliations occurring every single month, keeps us on track.
Any other questions for staff?
Just one. Jim, I think we were missing a heading on the bottom of the first page for one fund. There's a 1,075.49 revenue identified, but it wasn't listing the fund. I was just curious, did you know that offhand?
That is under the general fund. I'd have to, I gave out all the documents if I can see one. I know it's a revenue fund, and it's, oh, shoot, yeah.
Say, Gail's got an extra packet.
No, that just needs to be deleted, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all for me. Thanks, Jim. Don't put that on me, Rick. I'm a banker, not an accountant.
Any other questions for staff, for Jim? All right, so we'll move on to,
I will need, if I can get a motion.
we'll need an
of so-
action item on that, don't we?
Yes.
Can you do this in total, or do you need it?
No, we do it in total
Yeah.
of the listed recommendations.
President Frisbee, I move that we approve the fourth quarter budget amendments as submitted by staff.
Holmes, I second.
Motion of support made by trustee Holmes and seconded by motion made by trustee Keller, seconded by trustee Holmes. Mr. Wines, would you do a roll call, please?
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Did you want to discuss the library PC now, or did you want to move?
Just that if there's citizens that desire to represent the village on the library board, we have received a application from one citizen, and we want to make sure that people are aware that positions are open due to terms expiring, as well as if there's a citizen that would desire to participate in the planning commission. There are 2 terms expiring, and again, the people sitting in those positions certainly might indicate their desire to continue,
Right.
but then that would all be evaluated, and ultimately, the village president would recommend to the full council for that representation.
All right. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So we do have South Kalamazoo County Fire Authority proposed property acquisition in front of us. So I'm gonna take this time and take it away from Jim right now. And this is something that, the ribbon cutting at Oswalt Park is fun, and this part is the work part. So if I may entertain me, please. I just want to get to some background, a little bit of history on this fire authority meeting held on May 18th. On May 13th, the fire agenda was sent to the board members. The agenda was sent out on Friday, May 13th, simply a standard agenda. The agenda did not list any information that would indicate there would be a vote on purchasing property. So May 16th, an email was sent by board member Losi with John Meyer and subject line committee recommendations. Email advised the fire board member would be absent from South County regular meeting scheduled for Wednesday, May 1st, and that John would be in attendance representing Brady Township. It also continued that she, Tracy Losi, supported the proposed Mercantile Bank CDARS investment recommendation. She said in her email, and also stated, I also would like to express my support for earnest deposit of $2,000 for potential purchase on land on W Avenue. May 16th, an email was sent by board member Losi to Carl Keller. Now, mind you, this time frame. It included the subject line, SKCFA Finance Committee recommendations. All attached, you will find recommendations from the Finance Committee and the Board for Investments of Funds in Mercantile Cedars. The 4th paragraph states the Finance Committee is recommending staggered turns, purchasing funds and various future expenditures, and maximizing our interest rate earnings. The attachment, the first bullet point, documents $250,000, 4-week renewal. Terms amount are being recommended with anticipation of purchasing land for the development. South Kalamazoo County Fire Authority would be fronting the funds with reimbursement from the entities, i.e. the Village of Vicksburg. So my concern is several. One, I question, did this violate the Opens Meeting Act? Having these discussions behind without board input or acknowledgement. May 17th, Jason Gatlin sent an email the prior day that subject was parcel land. the Finance Committee has found a parcel of land which would well be suited for Fire Station Number 2. Fire Station Number 2 is currently the Vicksburg Fire Station. It lists the exact property parcel number and listed 7 bullet points of its opinion on the property location. And again, recommends approving $2,000 earnest deposit to the property for 35-day option. Well, I'm not sure about you all sitting up here in front to commit to $250,000 when there's been absolutely no vetting, no review. I have a couple of questions leading up to that. Now, where did my questions go? With the potential expenditure of $250,000 of taxpayer money, what experts were used to advise the subcommittee of the process? Was there a realtor, an attorney, et cetera, hired to provide expert advice on purchasing property? Were any consultants hired or contracted reference the proper manner to identify the facility needs of the South County Fire? Were any consultants hired or contracted reference the potential locations that best serve the South County Fire service area? So I can't sit up here and support spending that kind of money. Now, I did find an earlier document that was done in 2016, February 16th, that clearly identifies the Fulton Station Number 3 as being the primary fire station needing attention. 2016. Nothing's been done since then. But now all of a sudden, behind our backs, they're coming up with this proposed property to purchase on our behalf. I have a hard time with it. I think we need to sit down, gather our thoughts, and make some recommendations of how we go forward on this whole process. Right? There's got to be some vetting. There's fire authorities that we can call in for assistance. We have Kalamazoo we can call in for assistance. Portage. We can hire professionals to do a consultant, like was a CPSM company, Center for Public Safety Management, LLC, out of Washington, D.C., that did the initial analysis. I just can't sit here and support it. I think there needs to be a lot of vetting that needs to happen. I certainly entertain some questions if anybody has some questions on this, but I just want to share with you what's been happening behind the scenes.
President Frisbee, if I can.
Yes, sir.
This won't be a question as much as it will be a statement, just to let the board members know. And I'm going to clarify President Frisbee's dates. The email from Ms. Losi was on the 17th. It was in the afternoon, was when I got it. I was also supposed to get an email from Chair Gatlin because the email that I received from Ms. Losi, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I read this. I didn't know where this was coming from. And so when I went to the meeting that night, I then got a hard copy of the email. And I said, oh, I never got that. You didn't? No, I didn't. I'm pretty religious on my emails. So that explained to them why I was completely in the dark on this whole thing. And I then advised them, just trying to slow play this as best I could, that we should at least go into a closed session to discuss this, because if we do it in an open session, not knowing at the time that they had put it out and possibly violated the Open Meetings Act, that closed session was a moot point, but I was at least trying to do the due diligence. I slowed the roll enough that they wanted to have an answer back in 30 days. And I told them that there is no governmental board is going to act within 30 days. Trustee Olson was there, and he heard me say that. So I got them to at least go 45 days. The authority had to put down some earnest money, which is you know, if this doesn't go through, is gonna be lost, which is unfortunate, but, I think losing earnest money is better than potentially paying $250,000 for property. So I asked Chairman Gatlin a day later, I said, please send me an electronic copy of that email, resend it to me. Not just because I'd like to have an electronic copy, just in case I happen to lose the paper copy. I still haven't gotten it. So, just so the board knows, I did at the time I thought was right as far as trying to slow this thing down, slow this train down a little bit until we could meet. I know that the Schoolcraft supervisor was taken aback as well. So if you have questions of me, feel free to ask. But I immediately got a hold of President Frisbee and Manager Mallory and let them know that, you know, this was a curveball that I wasn't expecting, so.
Trustee Keller, if I could ask you a question. Being on the Fire Authority Board.
Can we just have your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem, sorry.
Was this firehouse, this property, was it budgeted? Was it, I heard President Frisbee say that there's no due diligence done, which, that's the first thing I thought to myself was, I mean, we always do that. You know, Jim brings us, you know, the DPW building or the downtown, you know, infrastructure project. There's always a rational explanation to us and some due diligence that explains it, and typically it's done multiple years out, especially when you're dealing with, I believe, not only is it $250,000 for property, but the project would be well over several millions of dollars. So whatever it is, I'm just curious if you wouldn't mind sharing from your perspective, was there anything there that you can share with us?
This was my third meeting, and not that's an excuse, but I didn't even know what committees I was on other than the apparatus committee, which are the fire trucks and the hoses and the, so I also sent an email to Chair Gatlin saying, can I please get a listing of the committees and who's on them? There again, just so I knew who was on what. Any other meeting that I had been to, the discussion on facilities was, it was ongoing. That was the statement that was given. It was ongoing. That's why I said, you know, and after last summer with social media, it took a firestorm with, you know, the village was kicking, you know, whatever, that whole thing that happened. You know, all of us here had to explain to people that, you know, we support the firefighters 110%. The firefighters are not part of the village of Vicksburg. They're part of the South County Fire Authority. It's a separate entity. Yes, they're here in Vicksburg, but it's still a separate entity. And so, you know, we don't have any control whatever the fire authority wishes to do. And the fire authority's been looking to make changes, from what I understand, from this report that they had 6 years ago. They were looking at different options for their stations. So, but no, that's why I said when this all came up, I was just floored. I couldn't believe that this was, you know, this freight train was coming down the pike. So,
How can we put the cart before the horse? Don't even have a facility identified, the size, the capacity, the needs, but yet we're going to ask to go buy property for what? It just, I don't think we are in a position to do this, but I would certainly entertain a motion, one, to put out a formal RFP for consultants in this type of facility. There's been no study that I know of done that would determine with geographic population versus the location of the facility, the location of the facility versus the location of the firefighters. Are we adding 5 minutes more onto the trip to go away to come back? There's too many variables, too many questions just to say yes. And I do some of the questions that came up. Has the public ever received a notice of the potential expenditure via public agenda? No. Has the public ever been provided an opportunity to provide their input into the process? And those answers, I've never heard of it. Has a formal presentation or documentation from the building committee ever been made at a public meeting? Has any of the opinions, different locations, possible locations, documented in the meetings? There's just so many questions that I feel we need, one, not to support this purchase requirement. Two, make a motion to put out an RFP for a consultant to help guide us. I think we, as a community, owe it to our taxpayers to take the lead on this if the fire authority is not going to. And we need, after the assessment is complete, hire a consultant for the geographic locations for our future growth that we anticipate. So in front of us today was the request from the authority to support the property acquisition. And I'll just let you all discuss more if you like, or.
Sure. President Frisbee, just so the board knows too, I did bring this up during the discussions. Was a consultant brought in? Was a third party? In fact, the term I used, let's take the politics out of this, was the term I used. Once again, Trustee Olson was there as a private citizen. He heard me say that. And I didn't get an answer. So, at the very least, I think the village should send a strong message in a resolution to the authority stating that we want the authority to have a third-party study conducted. And if it needs to be, if they need to get a grant from, say, the Vicksburg Foundation to help with that, the Village of Vicksburg would be more than happy to assist in helping with that if need be. I think for this authority to survive and to be pertinent and germane, it needs to learn to do things the proper way. They can't keep having things done for them. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it right now. They need to learn to do it the right way.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm gathering this correctly from the feedback and discussion we've had so far, is that this was sent to the partnered organizations within the authority for recommended approval for this moving forward with the property acquisition, but provided with little to no supporting guidance, studies, or any kind of due diligence?
That is correct. And it also noted it's never appeared on an agenda, an approved agenda.
And that was noted by the authority?
Right.
President Frisbee, yes, I was at the meeting, and I've been at the meetings for the last 7 years, so I have followed this, and I followed the report from Washington, and I trust that report about as far as I can pick it up and throw it. That is my opinion. There's good in it, but there's also bad in it. These guys are Washington, D.C. They are not Vicksburg, they're not Fulton, they're not Schoolcraft. I'm sorry. We have to look at it from a different perspective. Now, being transparent, which I feel transparency needs to be said, I know where this property's at. Within 18 hours of that closed-door meeting, I started getting phone calls and people on the street asking me what the devil's going on with the fire authority. And I told them point blank, I will not discuss it. That had to do with a closed-door meeting, what was said in that meeting with Carl and the others. That's with them. They did come back into the regular session meeting, and I believe they approved $2,200 for a down payment, to hold it, yes. The reason I feel we need to have transparency in this too is that I believe that Julie Merrill's family at one time owned that property, and a year or so ago they sold that property. So Julie Merrill's family has nothing to gain from this purchase whatsoever. Second is, I think it's kind of ironic that my younger brother lives right next door to this property. So I want this board and the village to know that my brother's not going to gain 1 red cent from this. The only thing he's going to gain is if we do build a new station there, his insurance rates are going to drop. I know for a fact that there's a 5-mile radius per station. That's how it's determined, the coverage area in that. We will touch right on Fulton from that location. We will touch and overlap Schoolcraft on that location. Some people are going to complain that, yes, it's going to be a longer response into the village of Vicksburg. Yes, but the response to Sprinkle Road and north is going to be cut because simply the fact they can head straight north, hit V Avenue, cut over to Sprinkle, and boom. You won't have to go through the village. You won't have to be slowed down by the tracks and everything else. So that, yes, there is good and bad to this location. I too have a lot of questions, and I have had since minute one. I felt too that it was being rushed, but I wasn't in on the back conversations either. So I agree, we have to take a serious look at this. This is a big purchase, and I warned this council and this village months ago, we're going to have to go to the voters at some point to approve either this purchase or the building of a new station. So I guess that's all I have to say on the subject.
Thank you, Danny.
I just, well, this is first I've heard of it, okay? So, is it Ben Fritz owns the property? And I just wonder if the SKCFA, if they it doesn't sound like they've done their due diligence, because with our populations moving to, I assume we respond to the Edwin Allen homes, and there's the railroad tracks, and they divide the response. And so I don't know who gets to Edwin Allen first if Vicksburg doesn't. And in the village of Vicksburg, like our downtown core, we have all our buildings that are, some are like almost a common wall. And I'd hate to see a whole block go, because now the fire station is 5 miles down on W Avenue. I know people whined living in the village of hearing the sirens and things like that, but it's kind of a small price to pay, because wherever you are, you're gonna hear sirens. So I don't know, it doesn't sound like due diligence has been performed about populations of movement, because I really don't know where we are on that, and it sounds like neither do they, to make this decision. So I would like them to just like kind of backpedal. It sounds like the land's still going to be sitting there. And so maybe this person who's offering to sell that property is still willing to do it down the road, but I don't know what the fire sale is that has to happen now. That's all.
President Frisbee.
Yes, sir.
And just, I appreciate what Trustee Olson said, and I'll say it again. We need to take the politics out of this, plain and simple. Right now, there's a lot of politics going on. And, you know, I think a third-party study, the other problem is, to Julie's point, the land. This is agricultural land right now. And typically, ag land's going for $10,000 an acre. And, you know, this is almost 8 acres, and they want $250,000. So they're getting almost 4 times what a typical asking price on ag property is per acre. So, yeah, if they think they're going to sell for that, it probably will be there for a while. So I'm just reminding everybody, we need to take the politics out of this.
Yeah, I don't want this to be perceived as trying to block a purchase. I will never step in the way of somebody's personal gains with their own property. This is not the point. It's how we got to this point is where we have failed, where the board has failed. And when to pass their last budget, requested that they adopt a new purchasing policy. And if you'd like, I could bore you with the opening statement. Anybody want to be bored? In part, this policy states, within introduction, this purchasing policy is intended to serve as a reference guide for purchasing normal operating supplies, as well as occasional service contract and small equipment. By following this policy for each purchase, the SKFCA can assure and document to the public that it is purchasing the operating material it needs at the best price possible. Large equipment purchases, construction project, key support services, attorney, engineers, accountant, assessors, insurance, et cetera, may use an individual design bidding process in order to provide SKCFA with the best alternative. That's the opening introduction to the purchasing policy. So from that, I get what part of that $250,000 of taxpayer money, what experts were used to advise the subcommittee on this process. You know, it's just right back to the beginning of it. They didn't even use the policy they adopted to get to where they're at today. So I have got little to no support for the organization right now, the way it's being operated. And we're being asked to pony up $2,000 and potentially $42,000 split amongst the various board members. So that's what we have in front of us today. I probably got a little longer winded than I should have, but
Is the motion to vote on the purchase of the property? Is that what the motion is?
yes,
Approve or-
that's what's been asked of us by
The motion,
South County. South County
correct,
County.
would be worded that the Village of Vicksburg representative on the board, what their vote should be on the finalization of the purchase of this property. A vote of yes would be an affirmative vote in support of continuing this purchase.
Right.
A vote of no would be the Village of Vicksburg's position not to proceed with the expenditure of the $250,000. So the motion, I believe, as Carl called me, would be from the Village of Vicksburg trustees in either to have Carl vote no, not to proceed, or to, so I guess if the motion was from hearing the conversation, if a motion was made to have Vicksburg's representative not support the purchase of this property and to vote no, and was seconded, an affirmative vote by this board would instruct Carl to do that. If the majority didn't support it, then we'd probably make a re-motion in the affirmative.
Jim, if I can, I think it'd be cleaner is if the motion is made to allow the representative to vote in favor of this proceeding, assuming what everybody on this board does. If you vote no, the motion fails, and then therefore I am bound to vote no, that the board has voted no.
Okay.
That makes it nice and clean. Just so everybody understands too, I am bound by whatever this board does. Okay, I can't go in there and say, well, I don't care what they think. If this board tells me that Vicksburg is voting no, I'm voting no, period, end of statement. And just so everybody also understands is if this is a tie vote, there's 6 entities on this board. If it is a tie vote, the motion fails. The issue fails, just so everybody understands. So,
Excuse me. If we don't believe this has been vetted properly and it gets further vetted, you know, maybe it is a good move, but we really don't know that. That's the problem by this rush. So I think we're being rushed without really knowing the consequences of that action.
President Frisbee, if the board desires, or the council, I should say, desires, staff can prep a resolution for our council to entertain at the June 20th meeting that would list out recommendations of how the process would proceed, as you indicated, outside consultants, geographic location. I've heard take the politics out of it. I've heard more due diligence more than once by, I think, every one of you. So we could have a resolution prep for the June 20th meeting, but
So we take no action on this?
no, the action tonight would be on, because there'll be I think the fire authority's meeting is
15th
the
is our meeting.
15th. So we need to take action. They've requested Carl to come back and receive support from the village of Vicksburg to move forward with an expenditure of $250,000 of taxpayers' money.
You certainly could make two motions. We could vote on what's in front of us right now, the approval of the property acquisition, and we could also vote on a requirement for an RFP or a resolution on next week, next meeting, excuse me.
My question is if we're going to vote on this, then, and I'm just assuming most of us are going to vote no here, I'm assuming that, we're going to pass them, someone's going to make a motion, someone's going to second it, and then we're going to vote no on it. Isn't that?
It's gonna die, it'll die. And at that point, I can honestly say that it was brought up
Okay.
and it was voted no. That there was a motion, a second to bring it to
If you want to
floor.
cover it on both sides, and it does go in the way the assumption is that's been stated, then someone can do a second motion to ensure a no vote takes place by Carl, if that's a concern of what trustee Holmes is asking.
I know it sounds counterintuitive to what we're doing, but but we need to bring them, we need to bring this to the floor for a vote. Okay, because this is a request from the South County Fire Authority. We bring it to the floor, and then if voted down, then I know affirmatively that it is a no vote from this council, period.
Can I ask, because I don't know, did they provide you with a written, what they would want from each entity?
No.
And then the only thing I wanted to clarify for Mr. Olson, because I think he made a good point, but because I received some calls as well, and I did not attend the meeting, but I think the confusion comes from the fact Mr. Gatlin sent an email out that specifically listed and identified by picture, listed the parcel number and identified the exact location of this proposal prior to the meeting even taking place to all board members except the Village of Vicksburg representative. What those board members did with Mr. Gatlin's email or who they talked to about this specific property. I received this email after the meeting when Trustee Keller called me. I called the village manager of Schoolcraft asking if they were aware of it. And it was a couple days later, she had gotten the copy of this email from their representative sent to me. So I think that caused some confusion for you guys attending the meeting, that there was a closed session. How did this information get out? Well, that'd be a question for Mr. Gatlin. He sent the email with all the specific information.
Yeah, I received nothing.
Can I look at that?
Nothing at all.
Jim?
Either did Carl's.
Yeah, see, and
Yeah.
I showed up at the meeting and
I
what's
just-
this, you know?
And I'll-
First word I got.
If it's okay, I can forward the email to all
Yeah, please.
trustees
Yes,
after.
please.
That was Mr. Gatlin sent. It's a chain. You'll see the chain. I'll just keep the chain together.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Very good, thanks, Jim.
That's,
So I think Mr. Holmes's point, if I can suggest, is he wants the record to be clear on what this council action is, and under his assumption, it's to ensure that this initiative is not supported, if I heard him correctly.
that's,
If I could.
Yes, Brian.
So, I'm not an expert at crafting motions, but my idea would be putting a motion forth to instruct the village representative to the SKCFA to vote against the resolution moving forward with the property acquisition.
That's a perfect perfect motion. Do
I
we
make-
have a- do we have
I
a
make that
second?
motion.
I'm trying to throw it out.
Oh,
Go ahead, Dan.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'm not going to repeat the motion. Hopefully Mr. Wines gets that one for our meeting notes. So Wagner's made a motion. Trustee Olson is support, and we'll do a roll call vote, please, Christian.
Trustee Olson,
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry, no. I want to vote yes. Okay, all right.
No.
Okay, thank you. Just for no. Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. So that motion was made to present our vote as a no vote in the parcel of land. Does anyone feel it necessary to?
I won't get confused.
Okay.
Should we make a motion to ask Manager Mallory and staff then to put together a proposal that we would like to vote on in the next council meeting, that we then can give to the fire authority, in a very similar way with the purchasing policy that we did, that clearly states what our asks are of them in moving forward with this.
That would be welcomed.
I support.
So to clarify, Mr. Holmes has made a motion for staff to prepare a report accompanied by a resolution in our opinion of the best practice in acquiring land, purchasing land, as well as best practice to assist that the South Kalamazoo County Fire Authority can follow as it moves towards a station development.
Very good.
And it's seconded by and supported by Trustee Keller.
Motion by Trustee Holmes, support Trustee Keller. Let's do a roll call
So-
on that, please, Christian.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Keller,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. So that takes us to our village manager report. Some updates.
Yeah, the infrastructure update, just, we're at small ticket items in the punch list. The flower beds at the southeast corner of Michigan and in Prairie will be addressed. The skirting along the river in the park, as well as the topsoil above, leading there. We're still know that there'll be items arriving in July, and the main one that people will notice is the decorative fencing that we've talked about on the 4 locations on Main Street, as well as Prairie Street down by the Dollar General. That right now hasn't changed. It's due to arrive July 18th, and hopefully by the end of the month is installed. That's, any questions on the project?
Just one question on Washington Street, Jim. What is that aluminum or metal pipe that's
Above
going all
ground.
the way over? What
Yeah,
is that
what
about?
they're waiting on a part right now that's bypassing. So that is your sewer infrastructure, and it dumps into one of the manholes up on Michigan Avenue. We discussed of placing it on Washington. We think it would be more restrictive to traffic than how it's positioned now. As of last Tuesday, I should be updated tomorrow at 10, but as of last Tuesday, the Milbacher felt that has a chance to be corrected before the car show on Friday. That was our push. But it's waiting on a part to go underground right from that will put it right in the pipe that's already in the ground. So, any other questions on? DPW pole barn building is we're putting the interior roof on. I believe in my heart will be completed this week. And we took, I think it was Trustee Holmes' suggestion, that we'll have a formal ribbon cutting ceremony once we know that it is complete. It will follow shortly thereafter, so a subsequent, we'll know more definitely by the 20th, and hopefully on the 20th get to announce a date of a ribbon cutting for that building, open for the public to view and with the council present at that. But they were on site today and with scissor lift doing the interior, so I'm very hopeful that that's complete. Any questions on DPW? And budget update, as we said, we'll be presenting, look forward to meeting with the financial committee. All the documents are ready to go. And it's just, we'll get into more discussions on the 20th and 27th. I've been present for some of the discussions, just the anticipation of cost of goods and services that are going up and what that impact will be on the budget. And we can go in more detail of how we came to the figures that we did. But I'm looking forward to it, so.
Thank you, Jim. Any further questions for staff?
Probably more for public notification than that, but we'll be sending tomorrow the formal public notification to be covered in MLive for the meeting on June 27th at 7 p.m. So I'll be presenting a budget that does not raise the millage rate or that. So.
Thank you, Jim. So that takes us to committee reports. We'll start with Parks and Rec. Was there any updates?
Nothing earth-shattering, but we just discussed Oswald Park doing a movie night, many of them, and then the final needs, wants, and wishes for 2022 and 23. So if there's anything that anybody wants to bring up, bring it up soon, because we'll finalize the budget on the 27th this month. That's it.
Thank you, Julie. CATS committee report, and I'll speak to that. We're talking about budgeting, so the fuel cost for the Kalamazoo Metro went up in every 18 days they purchased fuel. And from the last time they purchased it, it's $20,000 increase in the cost every 18 days for the fuel. One of the cool things they were working on is they've got, and I heard this on the 5:30 the other night coming home on WKZO, but they're calling it microtrans. So it's a pseudo Uber bus, and they've got the city laid out in 4 quadrants. So they're going to have these outer lying parts of the city that you can pretty much dial them up and have a bus come pick you up. So it's going to be a exploratory type application to see how it works, see how the community engages with it. So that's going to start, I think, in July 7th, as I recall. That was it. They just had, for the fiscal year 2023 through 2026, they have over $2.6 million in transportation improvements that they have planned. So it's an interesting group. It's a big group. So 22 through 25, Kalamazoo and Michigan Avenue are going to be changed to 2. I'm old news, am I? Okay.
I heard this a year ago.
Well, it's official. I mean, they just stated it at this last meeting. It's going to happen. So we have Planning Commission update.
President Frisbee, we meet next week.
Next
actually.
week. Yeah, I know that. And I think the South County Sewer. That was in itself another very interesting meeting. We had discussions about, no, that's not it, their budget, their interpretation of who is legally a board member, and the request has been brought up to their legal staff by another board member getting the legal qualifications of having the Village of Vicksburg and the Village of Schoolcraft on the board. So as it stands right now, both those parties only have one vote, as compared to Brady Township has 2 votes. Schoolcraft Township has 2 votes. No, I'm misspeaking. Pavilion has the other 2 votes, right. So it's already a little bit lopsided away from the village. So we'll hear what the legal beagle has to say about if we stay on or if we go. They still are pushing ahead with their thoughts of doing some exploratory work on developing their own sewer system through the US 131 corridor. I think they're talking about Park Township building a sewer treatment plant. So, you know, I signed a letter of intent. I don't see where that hurts, doing an evaluation of it and exploring the needs and the options and how they can finance it. But that's about as far as we go from a village perspective, because we're pretty much cut in stone, and I stated that to them. We've got contracts in place. We're going through Portage, we're going through Kalamazoo, and we're going north. So it might be an opportune time to get that lawyer's analysis on the Sewer and Water Authority. So that was it for the sewer and water. Well, now I've lost my agenda. Do we have any more left on there? Well, we beat that horse.
I do have a little bit more to share. I have a meeting Wednesday, the apparatus committee that I'm on. I have a meeting with the chief and the other member on the committee to discuss purchase specs and everything on a new fire truck. So that'll be happening. And the fire authority did set up Cedars accounts that was discussed. They did stagger them. And I did put into the motion that when they expire, that they at least go out and look for entities that have competing, they can get competitive rates. So that we weren't just locked into one financial institution, that we look around. So I explained to them, it's the taxpayers' money, it's not ours. So we want to get the best money, the best return we can, so.
Thank you, sir. So this takes us to citizens' comments for non-agenda items only. So if anyone would like to speak, it would be now the time to speak. Mr. Hunt?
Alex would love it if you can talk into that microphone.
Just on regards to the, what, did I knock that out?
No, I did. Thank you.
Onto the park with the fireplace up there. Who lights that up and who takes care of that each time? I seen, we went by there the other night and there was people around there and there was a fire in there.
Yeah, there's a button that you hit. It's on a maximum amount of 15 minutes. If you're still there 15 minutes later, you push the button again, and then at 11 p.m., it can't be turned on after 11 p.m.
Okay.
The lights to the park, either tomorrow or Wednesday, will have the timer installed that the lights to the park also shut off.
At a certain time?
Yeah, the lights to the park, it's either 11 or 11:30. I think we might have, I think the string lights are 11 o'clock because there's a street light in the backside of the park that's on all night.
Okay.
So both the fire cannot be turned on after 11 p.m. and the lights go off.
Okay, all right, that's all. What are they gonna do anything on the restroom up there in the park?
No.
No, okay. I was asking, so I will find out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. We forgot to have you state your name and address, but We, he's the mayor, so we don't ask those questions.
Rebecca Walters, 420 South Kalamazoo Ave, Vicksburg. I've got a couple things I want to address. One, 4 years ago, you tore up part of a street and never came back to re-asphalt it, and I'm requesting that we get that done. And it is South Street between Kalamazoo and Maine. Was at a bonfire with the neighbors, and we're all kind of tired of it and want it fixed. Also, the sidewalks are absolutely ridiculous. We've got sidewalks that are crumbled to pieces, sidewalks that have a 3-inch drop, sections and chunks missing, and there are certain sidewalks that a business has taken away to add to their parking. Some just randomly fall off the path, get forgot about, and the Main Street business loop, I have witnessed 3 people get hurt this year alone. The last time I contacted the cops to make sure she was okay, and she had already been driven by a family member home because she could not herself. And nothing has been done about it. In fact, the new sidewalks that you are putting in front of Main Street, the subway, and that whole spot are aiding to the issues of the crumbled sidewalks. It's all nice and redone, but it all wobbles and curves to meet the issue areas. I ended up getting a call back from the cop to make sure that everything was okay because he did not see her upon arriving to check it out himself. But can we please start focusing on the importance and safety of our sidewalks, and not only when you've got other work in the area? There's some of you that live out in the area, walk your dogs. We're out there for the trees committees to investigate the trees. You were out there to watch the birds. You're out there to trick or treat. And you guys see that we've got issues of our sidewalks. Can we start doing something about them? I'd also like to request if our police could start enforcing the blocking sidewalks and the groundwater pollution with the vehicles not parked right. That would be great. We've noticed lately with the signs and everything coming out that our groundwater is sacred, and we're not helping it. We just had about 50 vehicles aiding to oil and vehicle drippage into our groundwater, and not one thought was made about it. We have it happening all over our village, and no one has even blinked twice to even think about the groundwater that we actually have and should, keep sacred in Vicksburg when it comes to Sunset Lake, the little rivers that we've tried to make little jump-in spots for the kids, where a man puts a bunch of sand in one of the rivers down by the park so that we could play in it. Let's protect that and make it to where our kids aren't going to get sick as we grow with this village. Also, on our event calendar on website, we've got the events for the different committees to be there for Parks and Recs and other things. Why isn't our fire board on there? You call the fire board authority to ask when the meetings are. Nobody answers. You leave a voicemail, nobody gets back with you. You try to message them, you get on their website, location and everything is to be determined. We'll follow up. Never hear anything. If we can please get them on the meetings, therefore, I used to get messages about them, but that kind of stopped. So if we can make sure that we're updating our village residents about when these meetings are so that we can be more proactive, because trying to toot the horn about the fire department fell silent for the past year, but now it's coming to light. And with that, how many times do we have to hear the SKFC spending an absurd amount of money on things that we could have gotten cheaper? Just a couple months ago, we had a citizen call in that states that all of the equipment that they had just purchased, they purchased from Mr. Gatlin's business at an excessive rate. And here we are, they're wanting to buy property at what you just said was an excessive rate. When are we going to actually look into them? You'd questioned about whether or not an audit needed to be done at that time when the money was being spent at an absurd amount of increase when it shouldn't have been. And we keep making covers for them and saying, oh, follow this. When are we actually going to do something about it and get it looked at so that they take the hint that we're tired of you volunteering our money without us talking about it or without it being an appropriate amount for an appropriate reason? If we can please get that taken care of, that'd be greatly appreciated too. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think Carl said it best. Government doesn't move that quick, but we are moving. I got my word on that. So that brings us to trustees' time. If there was no other citizens, we'll start with Trustee Merrill.
Oh, Car Festival is this weekend, so I hope everybody can come.
Trustee Holmes?
Just a quick comment. I think we all have been downtown and have seen the infrastructure project coming to a conclusion here, and also this weekend with the Old Car Festival. You know, the one thing that I've realized by walking around, and I think Ms. Walter's comments capture it as well, and that is that we're going to have an opportunity to pivot here soon from this very long process we've gone through with the infrastructure project and what it meant to the community. And I think, from my perspective, I think this brings so many opportunities for us to really, whether it's sidewalks, whether it's, a good example is my wife and I actually we walked around this afternoon, and we went into Clark Park, and there were a couple of fifth graders there. It was really interesting talking with them, and we happened to ask them. We said, well, you know, what do you like about this park? And they went through everything what they liked about it, and then we said, well, what would you like? And then they mentioned a couple things, but the thing is that what I realized is that just by walking around and seeing the people, whether it's in, you know, Oswald Park, the renovated park, or whether it's Clark Park, whether it's down in Sunset Lake, whether it's just the sidewalks people are walking. Again, my point is that there's so much more to our community. I think now that the big dig is coming to an end, and we can look a little bit beyond, you know, what we've been working on, you know, very hard and diligently over the last few years. And so I just wanted to say I look forward to it, and I think also other people in the community look forward to it as well.
Mr. Frisbee, I'm remiss. We had a couple people on and now one still there on Zoom, so I didn't know if they wanted to talk on non-agenda
Yeah,
items.
certainly ask them. I jumped ahead, didn't
No,
realize.
so if person on the Zoom call wishes to address the council, you'd do that by just taking your cursor, move it on the screen, and down at the bottom there's a raised hand. You'd click that raised hand, and we'll do our best to get it to work. So we'll, if you wish to hit that raised hand, and we'll all see it pop up. But if you want to continue with the council members, and then if we see it raised.
Trustee Olson?
Yes, I am awake this time. Real quick, for those of you that don't know, I believe that Portage Road tonight at I-94 is being closed down for the next 4 days to replace the beams. I was in the area today and I saw those beams, and they're big beams. Oswald Park, Tim, loved your speech. Thought it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was really proud to be there. I spent yesterday in St. Joseph, Michigan. Love the town. And a lot of people came through that saw my T-shirt that said Vicksburg Vintage Market on it. And, oh, you're from Vicksburg. That's the place where they're going to turn that mill into a brewery. Yep. And so I talked to him, and one gentleman, he travels all across the United States, and he checks out breweries. And he had heard about it, but he didn't know about it. So I informed him he's planning on coming down. He wants to do a tour of the building, and I told him how to contact Jackie and that. So I was really impressed. Several people commented about the Vicksburg Vintage Market, and nothing but praise, which made me feel pretty good. The thing that's really made me proud is that 4 other communities here in Southwest Michigan have approached myself and Karen Jameson about putting antique shows in their communities. The one that really surprised me was Wakarusa, Indiana, the jelly bean capital of the world. And they want to put in a 3-day antique show down there in the spring. My schedule is opened up. We can take a serious look at it. So to get that kind of praise was really overwhelming, and I loved it for what we're doing for our small town. The only other thing is the book sale this weekend. We have the car show, but we also have the book sale in Per Gale. I know what she's going through because I'm sorting through 18,000 books right now myself. So anyhow, thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Trustee Wagner?
Yeah, thank you, President Frisbee. So recently traveled out of the country on a vacation, and of all places in the world, several thousands of miles away in the middle of the ocean, run into a couple from Portage, Michigan, unaffiliated, and you do all the normal vacation chit-chat of who are you, where are you from, what do you do, and they say, oh, you're from Vicksburg. They're doing really cool stuff with the infrastructure, and they lowered their tax rate. Cool things are going on down there. Halfway across the world, it was just the neatest thing, and then shared a couple beverages and reminisced about their own situations, but I just thought that was the neatest thing that, of all places, that could happen. So love to hear that, you know, even in foreign countries, we're hearing about how well Vicksburg does. But to Trustee Holmes's comments as well is, now that at the end of the big dig, I am also as energized about what we can refocus our efforts on, how we can tackle the other problems that face us, and how we can best perform here for our citizens. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that transition looks like for us, or hopefully there's not just another really big project on the horizon that just hasn't got up to bite us yet. So really looking forward to some downtime and really getting a little more involved in those projects. But that's it for me.
Thank you, Ryan. Trustee Keller.
Awesome job as well on your speech on Thursday at the ribbon cutting. That was really cool. I postponed a business trip to be there for it because I thought it was more pertinent to be there to see that, seeing how we all worked on it so very hard. I had to make sure light poles got there in a timely fashion, so that's an inside joke. But no, it was an awesome time. The food trucks and everything downtown. I think everybody had a really good time, and looking forward to the car festival this weekend. And Rebecca, just it's the third Wednesday of the month is when the fire board is, and they meet right here. So it's the 15th. This next one. So next Wednesday. So, and if that changes, 6 o'clock. So you can check with staff, though, and if anything changes, I usually let him know, so make sure you're aware of it. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you all. So we're going to have a, Ryan said it's the end. It's never the end. I mean, there's a lot of other plans for this village. I mean, we're on a roll. Everybody's got the energy and the expertise now, so I think there's more to come. So we also have the master plan. So that's one of those I'm talking about. I mean, that's a big project. So it's going to be hitting us right after budget season, right? So get prepared for that. And so thank to Vicksburg and everybody that showed up for Oswald, all the people that donated. Just blows me out, the money that was generated by the public and to private businesses and people like yourselves. So that was a cool event to take part in. It makes all this worth it, right? I'm thinking about running for council when I retire. So hey. But I have nothing else other than thank you to everybody. The village has been a wonderful place, and the gratitude and the commitments, and the community events and the arts it's been phenomenal. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
I was waiting there. I was confused for a second. I wasn't sure.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.